You see it, you drink it, you are it, water. It seems so simple, right? Almost boring. But I'm telling you, hidden inside this one little molecule is one of the most incredible secrets in the entire universe. The actual reason life as we know it can even exist. So let's dive in and find out why.
I mean, on paper, it's about as basic as it gets. Two hydrogens, one oxygen, H2O. It's probably the first chemical formula you ever learned. But how does that simple recipe create everything from oceans and clouds to every single living cell on this planet? So what's the deal? That's the mystery we're going to unravel today.
And our story starts right in the middle with that big oxygen atom. Think of it as the anchor. Its unique properties are what dictate the entire shape and really the function of water. You want to understand water? You got to understand oxygen first.
Okay, so an oxygen atom has 8 electrons whizzing around, but the real action, the important stuff, happens in its outermost shell. There are 6 electrons out there, and we call them valence electrons. These are the only ones that actually get involved in making chemical bonds. Seriously, they're the key to this whole thing. Now, before any bonding happens, these electrons live in specific zones called orbitals. You can kind of think of them as differently shaped rooms. You've got one simple spherical room, that's the s orbital, and then you have 3 dumbbell-shaped rooms. Those are the p orbitals. Right now, they're all separate and distinct, but that's about to change in a big way.
To get ready for bonding, oxygen performs this incredible little bit of chemical magic called sp3 hybridization. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but it's really a simple idea. The atom just takes its different s and p orbitals and remixes them into a whole new set of identical hybrid orbitals. And why does it do this? To get more stable, to find a lower energy state. It's all about stability.
And how does it do this? Well, it's actually pretty cool. The atom grabs that one s orbital and its 3 p orbitals, mushes them all together, and out pop 4 brand new, totally identical sp3 hybrid orbitals. And then these new orbitals automatically arrange themselves in the most stable shape possible. And that shape is a tetrahedron. So why a tetrahedron? Well, remember, electrons are all negatively charged, and just like magnets with the same poles, they push each other away. They want to get as far apart from each other as they can. A tetrahedron is just the perfect geometric shape that lets them do that. It's nature finding the path of least resistance, the most stable setup possible. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. The blueprint for the electrons is this perfect symmetrical tetrahedron. So you would think the molecule itself would also be perfectly symmetrical, right? Maybe a nice straight line of atoms. But that is not what happens. Not at all. On the left is what we might expect, the simple, straight, linear molecule. But on the right, that's reality. The water molecule is actually bent. It has this distinct angle to it. So something is messing with that perfect blueprint. What in the world is going on here? The answer is incredibly cool. The force that's bending the water molecule is completely invisible. It's coming from something called lone pairs of electrons. And it turns out these invisible players are running the whole show. You see, of those 4 hybrid orbitals we just made, only 2 of them actually grab onto hydrogen atoms. The other 2 are just holding pairs of electrons that aren't bonding with anything at all. These are our lone pairs. And think of them like these 2 big invisible bullies. They're not tied down in a bond, so their negative charge takes up way more space. They push and they push much harder than the bonding pairs, physically shoving the 2 hydrogen atoms down and closer together, bending the whole molecule out of shape. All this pushing and shoving doesn't just result in a random shape. It settles at a very, very specific angle, 104.5 degrees. And that's not just some random piece of trivia. That number, that precise angle, is, and I'm not exaggerating, the angle of life. And here is why that angle is so unbelievably important. Because the molecule is bent instead of straight, the electrons aren't shared evenly. That big oxygen atom hogs the electrons, pulling them closer, which gives it a slight negative charge. And that leaves the 2 little hydrogen atoms with a slight positive charge. This imbalance, this is called polarity. A polar molecule is basically a tiny magnet. It's got a positive end and a negative end. See, if water were a straight line, all those charges would be balanced. They'd cancel out. No polarity. But because of that 104.5 degree bend, we get this tiny little molecular magnet. And this polarity, it's a superpower. It's what allows water to be the universal solvent, ripping apart salts and dissolving all the nutrients our cells need to survive. It's what allows water molecules to stick to each other, creating things like surface tension. It's not an exaggeration to say that this one property drives pretty much every single biological process that makes you, well, you. When you really stop and think about it, it all boils down to this incredible fact. A tiny, tiny bend in one single molecule is what makes the difference between a dead, barren rock floating in space and a vibrant, living planet. So the main takeaway here is this: that bent shape is not a flaw. It's not some random accident. It's a fundamental design feature of the universe, a direct result of those invisible lone pairs. And it is, without a doubt, the key to all life.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question. If a simple bend in a simple molecule is the secret to life here on Earth, what other incredible secrets are just hiding in plain sight, coded into the very shapes that build our reality? It just goes to show, sometimes the biggest answers are found in the very smallest places.